Alright guys, so this is the second video for the Unit 1B Linear Functions Math 1 test. If you're watching this again, it's just to help you study for your test and to really learn how to do these problems. So let's go ahead and get started so we can get done quicker. For number 3, it says Mr. Pate's Earth Science class decides to do an experiment in which they measure the growth of a plant in 2 different areas. Okay, so area A is where one of the plants is, and area B is where they put the same type of plant. But do you guys notice how the data points are different because they're doing an experiment on pollution? So question A says, what is the rate of change for area A and area B respectively? Respectively just means you need to find them both, okay? So for area A, I want to find the rate of change. Rate of change from a table, hopefully your teacher taught you to, 1, find the patterns, and then 2, do y over x, change in y over change in x. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So for area A, I'm going to figure out how much I'm adding each time in this table. So to get from 10.3 to 11.6, I need to figure out how much I added, okay? So I'm going to type in 11.6 minus 10.3. I'm going to work backwards and see how much we added. And I got 1.3. So now let's check it. If I do 10.3 plus 1.3, do I get 11.6? Okay, I did. So if you're good at your mental math, you can also tell that these are 1.3 away, and then even these, because 9 plus 3 makes 12, carry the 1. 1 and 2 makes 3, plus 1 more would be 4, right? So all of those are 1.3 away. And then for the left-hand side, the x's, 0 to 5 would be plus 5, 5 to 10 would be plus 5, and 10 to 15 would also be plus 5. So my rate of change for area A is y over x, which is 1.3 over 5. Now, not sure if y'all learned this in middle school. I'm hoping you guys did, but if you didn't, you really should not have a decimal inside of a fraction. So hopefully your middle school teachers taught you how to move your decimal out of the way. Move it in one place, and what you do to the numerator or the top, you also have to do to the denominator. So this would end up being 13 over 50. So that's for area A. For area B, I'm still just finding the pattern first. And then I'm going to do y over x to find the rate of change. So how do I get from 5.1 to 7.7? You guys can use a calculator on your test. So if you work backwards, 7.7 minus 5.1, you're going to get 2.6. So it looks like I'm adding 2.6, but let's check it to make sure, okay? So 5.1 plus 2.6 does give me 7.7. Now I want to show y'all a shortcut. How do you get from 5 to 7 plus 2? The decimal stays. How do you get from 1 to 7 plus 6? So if you check that for each of these, it is adding 0.26 each time. 10 to 12 is 2. 3 plus 6 is 9. Okay? And then right here, this one's tricky. But if you do 7 plus 6, that's 13, carry the 1. 1 and 7 makes 8, so you need 2 more to get to 10. So it is 2.6. Now, the time looks like it hasn't changed, and it's adding 5 each day. So for area B, if we do y over x, you're going to get 2.6 over 5. I just told y'all that you can't have a decimal inside of a fraction. So we're going to move that decimal place. Remember, if it's a whole 5, the decimal is behind it, one spot. And so for area B, we're going to get 26 over 50. Now 26 over 50 should do what? Should reduce. You should be able to divide them both by 2, right? And so I'm getting 13 over 25 for area B. All right, so let's be honest. How many of us think we can remember that for the test tomorrow? The moving the decimal, all this stuff. If you can, that's awesome, because on your DCA, you'll have to do it without a calculator. But if you can't, I'm going to show you how to do it in the calculator in this video. Okay? So for area A, we had 1.3 over 5, right? So I'm going to do 1.3 divided by 5, and it gave me 0.26. Now, on these calculators, there is a button called math. So this math button does a lot of math operations for you. So once you get this 0.26, if you hit the math button and you hit enter on fraction, it's going to ask you, do you want your answer as a fraction? I'm going to hit enter again to say yes, and it gave me 13 over 50. Okay? Same thing for area B, the pink area. If I do 2.6 divided by 5, because that's what we had right here, right? And I hit math, fraction, because I want it to change it to a fraction. Yes, answer to a fraction. Yes, I'm going to hit enter again. It'll give you 13 over 25. So don't be afraid to use your calculator on your test, okay? All right, now let's look at this. In which area does the plant grow the most daily? I want you to look at your two fractions you got. So this one is growing 13 inches in 50 days, right? And this one's growing 26 inches in 50 days. So which one grows more? Is it growing more if it goes up 13 inches or if it goes up 26? Because the denominator's the same. Good. So it's growing more in area B. It's getting bigger. It's going up by 2.6. This one's only going up by 1.3. So this one is getting bigger. It's growing the most. All right, number 4. You've got to know how to do number 4 for your upcoming DCA. So let's make sure we're good on number 4. A cylindrical tank is being filled with water. The table shows the volume. Assuming Kara fills the tank at a constant rate. So that means the pattern should be equal, right? Or the pattern stays the same. How much water is in the tank initially? What does it mean if we say something happens initially? That should mean at the start, right? So if we're talking about the start of this tank being filled, the starting time should be 0. Does everybody agree with that? Anytime you're about to start something, if you haven't started yet, the time is going to start at 0, right? So then I'm looking for what number goes with this 0. How much water started in the tank when the time was 0? Okay? So they told us we should have a pattern that stays the same, a constant rate, right? So if I go find my pattern, how do you get from 150 to 275? It looks like we're going to add 125. Check here. If I add 125, 5 and 5 makes 10. Carry the 1. 1 and 7 makes 8. 8 and 2 makes 10. Carry the 1. 1 and 2 makes 3. 3 and 1 does make 4. So we are adding 125. They told us it was constant. That does work. Now on the left side, it looks like I'm adding 40 each time. I'm hoping we all agree with that. So it says constant rate, right? Which means if I'm going down and I'm adding 125, I need to work backwards and find where we started, right? So if I work backwards instead of adding 125, I can subtract 125. So I want to do 150 minus 125. Now let's make sure that's going to work. If I do 40 and I work backwards and I do 40 minus 40 because we were adding when we were going down, right? But now I'm going up. I'm working backwards. So the opposite of adding is to subtract. 40 minus 40, does that give me 0? Yes. So this should work. So I just need to do 150 minus 125. And if you do 150 minus 125, you should get 25. So how much water is in the tank initially? 25 and it says cubic feet, so feet cubed. All right, if you have questions on 4, please feel free to text me or ask me at tutoring. Let's move on to 5. So the function, ooh, okay, these are good ones. I love ones like this because it really makes sure that you're reading the problem. F of x is Leighton's bank account. So f of x, this equation is Leighton's bank account. Then it says the table, so this table right here, G of x, this blue table, is Miranda's, okay? So we're looking at 2 different people's bank accounts, Leighton's and Miranda's. So let's go read our questions first. Which of the following answer choices shows the distance between the rate of change? All right, so what are we trying to find? Rate of change, and then we're going to find the distance, right? So let's go back and look at our equation and our table. I need the rate of change for my equation. So remember, rate of change is just the slope, okay? The slope is always the number that's touching the x, which would be a 15. So my rate of change for the equation is just 15, right? Now, my rate of change for the table, how do you find rate of change from a table? We got to find our pattern. We just talked about this, right? So 125 to 175. Looks like I'm adding 50. Think about it. If your friend has $1.25 and they need $1.75, you got to add 50 more cents, right? And then 1 to 3, I'm adding 2. So how do I find my rate of change? Y over x, which equals 50 over 2, which is just 25. Okay? Now, some of you are probably freaking out watching this right now because you're like, wait a minute, I chose a different point. That's fine, check this next one. How do you get from 175 to 200? Add 25. How do you get from 3 to 4? Add 1. If you do y over x for this darker blue, you still get 25 over 1, which is just 25. So it doesn't matter which point you pick. It should have a constant rate, okay? So everybody, no matter which points you picked, if you do the pattern, you should get 25. So this is my rate of change for the equation, f of x, for Leighton's bank account. And this is my rate of change for Miranda's. So this is a positive 15, which means Leighton is putting in how much each month, how much every single month, 15. The table is Miranda's, so we found Miranda's putting in how much money each month? 25, okay? Now, part A says find the distance. So all they want you to do, one of them is going up by 25 each month, and the other one's going up by 15. How do you find out the distance between 25 and 15? One option, you can do a number line, right? Count from 15 to 25. Hopefully you learned that in middle school. Another option, distance is just your bigger number minus your smaller number, right? So if I do 25 minus 15, I should be getting 10. Now, who is depositing the most monthly? We literally just talked about this, so I want us to go back and look at it again. So the months, if you go look at this table, months are in the spot for X, right? So in the blue one, each month, every single month, we found out our rate of change was 25. So we're going up by 25 for Miranda's account, okay? For Leighton's bank account, we're going up by 15, because if you look, the X is the months. Each month is going up $15 because it's a positive 15. All right, so this one's going up by 15. Which one is greater, going up by 15 a month or up by 25? 25. So whose bank account went up by 25 each month? Miranda's. So who's depositing the most monthly? Miranda, because her rate of change is greater. All right, so we should be good with our rate of change section of the review.